Stop! Watch the video to the end. If you want to learn about high-quality, inexpensive, and balanced nutrition for your cat. You think your cat is picky? But what if they're actually trying to tell you something is wrong, and you keep ignoring it every single day? That full bowl you leave out? The routine that feels safe to you? What if it's the exact reason your cat walks away, restless, unsatisfied? Because here's the part most owners never face. What if your cat isn't struggling with the food, but with you breaking something instinctual they depend on? The real question is, what have you removed from their world without even noticing? Something doesn't add up. You pour food into your cat's bowl every day, same brand, same portion, same routine. They eat, sometimes eagerly, sometimes not. And you probably think, they're just picky. But if that's true, why do they walk away from a full bowl, then beg again an hour later? Most people believe feeding a cat is simple. Fill the bowl, keep it full, and you're doing everything right. It feels responsible, safe, loving. But something about this doesn't quite make sense. Cats in the wild don't eat like that. They don't graze all day. They hunt, pause, watch, and then hunt again. And here's the uncomfortable part. What feels like care to you might be quietly confusing them, because the way your cat sees food is not the way you think at all. Something deeper is happening here, and once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. Hint of depth. Think about how your cat reacts before eating. They don't just walk up calmly every time. Sometimes they sniff, hesitate, walk away, come back again. Most people interpret this as moodiness. They're just being difficult today. But that explanation is too simple. Because in a cat's world, eating is never just eating. It's the final step of a sequence that starts long before the food appears. Hunt, catch, kill, eat, rest. And when you remove that sequence, when food just appears in a bowl without effort, something breaks. Your cat isn't confused about the food. They're confused about the meaning of it. This is why they sometimes stare at you before eating. Why they ask for food, then ignore it. Why they seem unsatisfied, even after a full meal. It's not hunger that's missing, it's purpose. And if you really understand what that means, you'll start to realize that feeding your cat isn't just about what you give them. It's about what you take away without even noticing. Reason to keep listening. Now here's where everything shifts. Watch your cat right before they eat. Sometimes they look at you. Not at the bowl, at you. Most people think they're just waiting for permission or asking for more. But that's not it. In their mind, you're not a food dispenser. You're part of the process. Remember this. Your cat doesn't see you as human. They see you as something closer to them, a larger, slower, slightly confusing version of a cat. And that changes everything. Because when another cat brings food, shares food, or even eats nearby, it's part of a social and survival system. But you skip the hunt. You skip the chase. You skip everything that gives the food meaning. To your cat, it's like watching someone magically pull prey out of nowhere. No effort, no skill, no instinct, and deep down, it doesn't make sense to them. That's why some cats bring you toys. Why others drop things at your feet and wait. It's not random. It's not just play. It's them trying to fix something they think is broken in you. They see you as part of their world, but also as something that doesn't quite know how to survive in it. And once you realize that, feeding your cat stops being a simple act. It becomes communication, familiar moments, new meaning. Think about how you usually feed your cat. You walk into the kitchen, open a bag, pour the food, maybe say their name. To you, it's routine, care, responsibility. But to your cat, something important is missing. First, the moment before food. In the wild, this is tension, focus, movement. At home, it's instant. No buildup, no anticipation. Most people think this makes life easier for their cat, but in reality, it removes the very thing their brain is wired for. Then, the act itself. A bowl doesn't move, it doesn't run, it doesn't hide, it just sits there. So your cat eats, but something in them stays awake, unfinished. Next, the environment, loud kitchens, bright lights, people walking by. We assume cats feel safe because they're indoors. But cats are small predators, and also potential prey. Eating in the open, without control of the space, can feel wrong to them in ways we don't notice. And then, the aftermath. They eat, and instead of resting peacefully, they wander. Or they come back asking again. Not because they're still hungry, but because the cycle never truly completed. And little by little, you start to see it. This isn't just feeding. This is a broken rhythm your cat is trying to adapt to. And the more you notice these small moments, the clearer it becomes that your cat isn't difficult. They're trying to live in a world that doesn't quite match what they were built for. Gradual deepening. Now notice something else. Your cat doesn't just react to food, they react to you. The way you move, the time you feed them, even the energy you bring into the room. Most people think feeding is a one-way action. I give, my cat eats. But that's not what's really happening. Your cat is studying patterns, learning rhythms, adjusting themselves to you, and over time something subtle begins to form. They start waiting for you before eating, following you into the kitchen, watching your hands instead of the bowl. Not because they're desperate, but because in their mind, you've become part of the hunt. This is where it gets deeper. When a cat connects food with a specific presence, your presence, it's no longer just survival. It becomes a bond. They begin to associate you not just with feeding, but with the completion of something instinctual. And this is why small changes matter more than people think. Feeding at random times, ignoring their signals, rushing the moment. It doesn't just affect their stomach. It affects how they experience you. Because to your cat, you're not just the one who gives food. You're part of the meaning behind it. And if that meaning feels incomplete, they feel it too. Sustaining interest. And here's the part most people don't notice until it's too late. When something in this pattern changes, your cat notices immediately. Maybe they stop finishing their food. Maybe they start waking you up at night. Maybe they become louder or strangely quiet. Most people think something is wrong with the cat, but often the change started much earlier. A different feeding time, a new environment, less interaction before meals, small things. But to your cat, these aren't small at all. Because remember, they don't just eat food, they experience a sequence. And when that sequence breaks, they try to fix it. They might bring you toys more often, follow you constantly, or seem restless even after eating. Not because they're misbehaving, but because something inside them is unfinished. And this is where many owners make a mistake. They respond by giving more food, more portions, more treats, more access, thinking it will solve the problem, but it doesn't. Because hunger was never the issue. The missing piece was meaning. And if that goes unnoticed for too long, your cat slowly stops trying to complete the cycle at all. Key moment, shift in perception. At some point, if you really pay attention, something clicks. It's not about the food, it was never about the food. Watch your cat again, not when they eat, but right before. That pause, that look, that small moment of waiting. Most people see expectation, but what's really there is trust. Because in the wild, a cat doesn't eat unless it feels safe. It doesn't relax unless the environment makes sense. And somehow, Your cat is trying to make you part of that safety. Even when the system is broken, even when the hunt doesn't exist, they still come to you, they still wait, they still try to connect the moment of eating with your presence. And that changes the entire perspective. Because when your cat seems picky, when they walk away from food, when they act restless or unsatisfied, it's not rejection, it's communication. They're not saying, "I don't like this food." They're saying, "This doesn't feel right." And once you understand that, feeding your cat stops being about filling a bowl. It becomes about creating a moment where they can finally let their guard down. Simple truths. So in the end, it becomes something very simple. Your cat doesn't eat wrong because of the food you give. They struggle because the experience doesn't match what they are. You thought you were feeding them, but in their world, you were skipping the most important part. And still, they adapted. They watched you. They followed you. They tried to turn you into something that makes sense in their instincts, not because they were confused, but because they chose you. And here's the truth that changes everything. Your cat doesn't need better food as much as they need a better moment around it. A pause, a signal, a sense that this, right now, means something. Because when that moment feels complete, they don't just eat, they relax. And when they relax, that's when you know you finally understood them. Not as a pet, but as something much closer than that.